2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today's show is a bit different, so you have me today. And just me. Tyler is in Miami, and he is sitting on the beaches and hanging out with his wife and hopefully having a really good time, a much needed break. He works so extremely hard. So I hope that he's getting some rejuvenation and feeling good and spending some good quality time with his wife. I think the show is always better with him because he's the man, and we're going to miss him today, but I hope he's doing well in Miami. So with that, I'm going to take an opportunity today to talk about some things that get me in trouble. And what I mean by that is, what topics do people have a difficult time with, and do I get the most feedback on when it comes to, like, in my email box or my DMs and Instagram, where people are saying, what are you talking about? Or I totally disagree with you. Or I get some even meaner stuff sometimes where people are pretty passionate about the topics that I'm bringing up. And I understand their passion, and I understand their triggers, and I understand why me saying some things can absolutely trigger them. But today, I just want to take the opportunity to explain the principles behind some of these difficult topics so you can understand why I say what I say. I believe, so a big part of my life and my job is training therapists. It's hiring and training therapists. And one thing that I teach my therapists, and this is going to sound backwards, but one thing that I teach them is that they need to be willing to get fired by their client. And what I mean by that is they're supposed to build rapport. They're supposed to connect with their client. But if a client does not want to do their work, or if a client is unwilling to operate in reality, it puts a therapist in a weird position. The therapist can placate, can, dance around for a while, but that doesn't do the client any good in the long run. maybe at first a little bit while they're building some rapport and they're creating a relationship. But the reality is that that client is not going to move forward and start to progress unless they can start to face some pain, start to face some reality. And so it's the therapist, this is the art of therapy. It's the therapist's job to help them see that reality for themselves. Sometimes reality is hard and reality is difficult, but every good therapist is willing to be uncomfortable with their clients when that reality is difficult, and willing to sit in that space of uncomfortability with the reality. So a lot of the things that I talk about today might be a little bit triggering and hard to hear, but I'm just being real with you. And I'm just being honest with you. And this comes from my years and years of experience of doing betrayal trauma work. And my ultimate goal is actually, I feel like I'm fighting like hell for my clients. I want them to get better. I don't care if people hate me or don't like what I have to say or whatever. If it's helping somebody get better because we're looking at the reality and we're able to face that reality as hard as it may be, then that's my mission. That's my purpose. And I'm going to fight for that. So it's really interesting. And I think Tyler could tell stories about this as well. I can run a group, and I really have gotten feedback about groups that I run where somebody will email me and say, that changed my life. That was the best group I've ever been in. That was amazing. I loved it. Thank you so much for facilitating that. That was life-changing. And then I can get an email, 10 minutes later from a client who was in that group who would say the exact opposite. That was a waste of my time. I totally disagreed with what you had to say. You're the worst therapist ever. Okay, they might not go that far. Actually, I've gotten one or two of those before. But they hated the group. So here we are, they're sitting in the exact same group, the exact same experience, yet they're having two totally different experiences. Why I'm telling you this is to understand that depending on how you come to listening to what we have to say or what your perspective is, really depends on the experience. That dictates the experience that you're going to have when you get the information. So we're all in a different stage of development. We're all in a different process in our growth in our life. And when you come to that experience, you're going to react a certain way depending on that development that you're in. So when I talk about some of these difficult things, some people eat it up while other people reject it. And I totally understand that, and that's fine. But the people who need it are important to me. And so if somebody's going to reject it or somebody's going to eat it up and love it, I need to say it anyways. I've been called a man hater. I've been called a woman hater. I've been accused of always siding with the person struggling with addiction. I've been accused of always siding with the person with betrayal trauma. And what I'm trying to side with, and I'm not perfect. Sometimes my own stuff gets in the way, but what I try to side with is truth. And sometimes facing that truth feels like I'm taking sides, but that's not what I'm trying to do at all. What I'm trying to do is just get to reality and truth so that people can move forward. I absolutely don't love men more than women and women more than men, or betrayers more than the betrayed, or anything like that. Not at all. I want people to be free. I want them to feel purpose in their life. I want them to create love and intimacy, whatever side of it that you're on. It doesn't matter to me. But both sides get stuck. Sometimes the person struggling with addiction is stuck in so much shame and denial, manipulation, and things like that, that they have a hard time moving forward. Where the person struggling with the betrayal can be caught up in grief, can be caught up in anger, can be in their own denial. And it can be really hard to face some realities. So some of the realities I'm going to talk about today are more specific to the betrayed side of things. But there are things that are difficult for the people struggling with addiction to understand as well. And maybe I'll touch on those a little bit. And let's just kind of see where this goes. All right. So one of the big things that gets me in trouble is forgiveness. So, and I've learned how to navigate this. I do not jump right into forgiveness with people. When somebody just had D-Day and the trauma's real and the grief is just starting, I believe it's not good therapy and it's not good advice or counsel to jump right in and say, it's going to be good for you to forgive them one day. So I learned that early on and I haven't made that mistake very often. However, the truth is that forgiveness is good for you. Going through the process of forgiveness is good for you. And you take one step at a time and you get yourself there. So I don't talk about forgiveness a ton, although I'm a huge believer in forgiveness. And I actually think forgiveness is radical acceptance of something. It's coming to peace with something and coming to terms with something. So when somebody comes along and just says, you need to forgive, what they're not taking into account is that person's process that they're in that forgiveness process. So I maybe I shouldn't bring this one up because it doesn't get me in trouble that often because I'm aware of this. And forgiveness is still a good thing. Forgiveness is absolutely the goal in a lot of ways, for both parties. So I did an Instagram post years ago. And the post that I did was something about positive regard and strengths-based perspective. And what strengths-based perspective, I was taught this in school, is that when somebody comes into my office, I should start with a strengths-based perspective. So before I see them as broken, as not doing well, as just unhealthy, negative, before I see all of that, stop for a minute and see all the strengths. So like an example would be, let's say an adolescent came in and was just acting out and defiant to their parents. Instead of seeing them as a bad kid, maybe I could see that they have some tools and some tactics and some strategy in play to disconnect from people and protect themselves. Wow, good for them. Let's start there with a strengths-based perspective. Because what I want them to feel from me is positive regard. That I believe in them and that I can see the goodness of their soul. So I did this post on Instagram and what I said is, for a betrayed partner, it's actually helpful for them to have positive regard for the person that betrayed them. Triggers firing off, boom, 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 right? I'll say that again. It is healthy for a betrayed partner to have positive regard for their betrayer and to see the good in the betrayer. It doesn't take away the pain of the betrayal. It doesn't mean that pain isn't important, that anger, that sadness, all of that stuff is absolutely valid and absolutely important to listen to so that you can have your healthy boundaries. That is absolutely important. But when you dehumanize somebody, when you hate somebody, there's a difference between anger and hatred. Then it gives you permission to do all kinds of things that you don't want to do, to live in drama, to persecute, to stay stuck in your own victim stance. Like when you can get to positive regard, when you can see the goodness in that person, but still hold that pain inside of you and say, this is not okay for me. There's a dialectic there. Tyler's favorite thing, dialectics. There's a dialectic there. This hurt. This is not okay. This is not cool. And you made a mistake. There's still goodness in you. I know there's still light in you somewhere. You're not full of all darkness and evil. I'm going to believe that there's goodness there for you. Maybe you're crying out for help. Maybe you're stuck in this trauma that you haven't learned how to deal with or cope with. So now you're acting out in all these unhealthy ways. I see the goodness in you, and I can't be in a relationship with you like this because it causes me pain. Both those things can coexist. Your pain is absolutely valid, and you can have positive regard toward your partner. See, I told you these are hard things to hear that get me in trouble. I wonder the emails I'm going to get after this episode. Tyler's not here to rein me in, so I guess I'm taking full advantage. All right. The next one that gets me in big trouble is honesty about sexuality and sexual self-acceptance. And let me tell you why this one gets me in trouble. We believe a lie, but the lie causes all kinds of problems. So the lie that we believe is that people can and should fit their sexuality into a specific box. That there's a prescription of what your sexuality should be. And so it needs to be exactly that. And that's all that it is. And we get that lie from the way we were raised, from our family of origin, from our religions, from therapists who don't know what they're doing. Of your sexuality is only this thing, and that's all it can be. So I get in trouble when I say things like, if you go to the beach and you notice people, that's normal and that's okay. Now, lusting after people is another thing. If you really take that far and you use that fantasy, you objectify people, you act out with it, that's one thing. But when your sexuality is there and you're noticing people at the beach, that's normal. I was talking to a woman once and she said, when I go to the grocery store and there's these magazines and I see these hot guys on these magazines, I notice them. She admitted that to me because she was frustrated that her husband noticed other people. Now, I get it. I get why this is so hard to hear when you've been hurt, when you've been betrayed, when you don't feel safe in your fidelity in your relationship. I get why this is so hard to hear. But denying the reality that sexuality is inside of all of us and trying to control that and fit it into a mold and a box, that actually creates more acting out. Facing the reality and honoring it and understanding it creates safety, which creates honesty, which creates self-control. We get it backwards. When we apply rigidity and control to sexuality, we encourage compulsive behaviors. When we apply acceptance, honesty, openness, we encourage stepping into our power, creating an authentic relationship with self and others. Denying what is actually there will create shame. It will create disconnection in your relationships. Think about it. On one hand, you want honesty from your partner about their sexuality, about what they're doing and who they are. On the other hand, you need their sexuality to fit into a very specific mold. And usually what that mold is only be attracted to me. Your sexuality is 100% about our relationship. It's focused completely on me and on us. And there's no other sexual acts or sexuality beyond us. And the problem with that is that arousal happens outside of that relationship. Sexuality happens outside of that relationship. Now, you might have certain agreements in place in your relationship that say, like, for example, if my wife went and slept with another person, that would break an agreement for me. An agreement that we have, an understanding that we have together of our fidelity in our relationship. But an agreement that I haven't made with my wife is that she can't be attracted to anybody else. And the reason I haven't made that agreement is because I know it's not reality. I know she is. I also trust her. So she can be attracted to other people. That's fine. She could even talk to me about it. Whatever. She has before. Or she doesn't have to talk to me about it because I trust her. I know she's not going to go break those boundaries. Now, I realize if you've experienced betrayal trauma, you don't trust your partner. So that reality is really, really hard to sit in and to hold. And this is where the person who has betrayed needs to be very empathetic and hold space for that fear that you have about that reality, but stay honest at the same time. And a lot of times what they do is they sell out. They don't stay honest. No. I don't have anything. I don't have any, like, there's no attraction anywhere else but just you. My arousal template is look, it's a portrait of you. That's all it is. BS. That's not true. So what they're doing is they're lying to try to create safety. Will never work, ever. And a lot of times the betrayed partner wants them to lie because the truth is too hard. That dynamic will never, ever work. And a lot of times what you got to look at is how safe am I as a partner for my partner to open up with me about who they are? Who are they as a sexual being? What are their fantasies? What are they into? What do they want? And I don't need to take pressure on, and I don't need to feel all these other things. I can separate me from them. They can be them. I can be me. And let's be honest and open. Betrayal happens because of dishonesty, not because of the act. Well, I wouldn't say that 100%, but the big part of betrayal is the dishonesty. I am not, again, I need to reiterate this. I am not saying that it's cool for somebody to just go do whatever they want sexually, and the other partner needs to get over that. That's not what I am saying. And that's a lot of times what this gets turned into is if you accept sexuality, then you're saying that it's okay to just go act out in all the ways that you want to. I can be honest about my sexuality and about what's on my arousal template, and I don't need to go do all the things on it. I don't need to act out on it. So I can be open, I can be seen, I can be understood, and I can still be disciplined and structured and keep some things in the box because I want to create safety for my partner. And that is a healthy relationship where there is an element of understanding where I am in control of my own sexuality. I'm in control of my own sexuality because I choose into my relationship. So no, I am not saying go have fun and do whatever the heck you want. And the partner needs to accept that. But the people who don't like what I have to say are the ones that are trying to control it and trying to shut it down. Okay, I could rant on this for a long time. the healthiest relationships that I see are the ones where each partner is healthy enough on their own 2 feet that it allows for space for that individual sexuality in a relationship, which then allows for some real good connection and intimacy within the relationship. Okay. The next one that gets me in trouble. I get called a victim blamer sometimes. You blame the victim. I get called, I get told that I don't hold people accountable for their actions. Here's the deal. The thing that gets me in trouble is when I say you need to take responsibility for your own healing. So with betrayal, this is very difficult to say because somebody has done something that hurt you. Ouch. You hurt me. So you should fix this. This is not my mess. This is not fair that I now have to take responsibility for my healing. It sounds like the old codependency models that I was trained in years and years and years ago, which I'm glad that's behind us, by the way. Those models were too far to that extreme. I heard things like co-addict. I'd go into these groups and sit in these, and it was like, as the partner, you're the enabler, so you're actually the one creating this, and you're the co-addict. BS. That's not true. But what happened? That was an overtaking of responsibility, and it was a shaming and that was victim blaming. We blame you for enabling and creating this problem. BS. But what happened is the pendulum swung all the way to the other side, which said, they hurt you, they are the problem, and they need to fix this. They're the abuser, they're the scum of the earth, and they need to change so this can get fixed because you did nothing wrong. Well, the fact is that you may have done nothing wrong. You may have done nothing wrong at all, and you're responsible for your own healing. It sucks, but it's reality. I think the analogy I always use with this one is pretty much anything in terms of if I were hurt by something else. Let's say a horse bucked me off and hurt my back. I could sit and be pissed off at that horse forever. And I could want that horse to pay for my treatment and to go to physical therapy and to go to the chiropractor and to do all those things. But guess what? That horse is just eating grass. That horse is out in the pasture doing its thing. And I'm the one sitting on the dirt looking at this process in the future. And I have to decide, what am I going to do about this? As much as this hurts right now as I sit here, it really is an opportunity for me. An opportunity to step up in terms of my own healing. Because that darn horse is just eating the grass. And in relationships, hopefully your partner's doing more than just eating the grass. Hopefully that partner is very apologetic, very remorseful, and saying, I'm supportive of you and your pain and processing that pain however I can. I'll pay for therapy. I'll watch the kids. I'll empathize. I'll do whatever I need to help you go through this process of grief to heal. But oftentimes that's not the case. Oftentimes they're out just eating grass, or they're even worse. They're turning around and after they buck you off, they're trying to stampede you. And even if they're doing that, you're responsible for your healing. They're not. So if they're turning around trying to stampede you after they buck you off, maybe you need to run away, get as far away from that as you can, so that you can then start your own healing process, because you're responsible for that. So when Tyler and I have these conversations with people, I've had a conversation with Tyler. Let me tell you about it. So I was working with a client who refused to look at her own stuff, and she was her partner was looking at pornography, and she had some betrayal trauma, and but she was very manipulative. She was very angry. She was very dishonest in her own way, and the pornography was the bull in the china closet. That was in her mind, the source of all their issues. And it was difficult for me to help her see that she was creating some of this stuff, because we were caught behind this victim stance to the pornography use. And I'm not condoning the pornography use, but this is the conversation I had with Tyler. I was kind of staffing this a little bit and saying, where would you go with this? And one point that he made was like, if you go and you really push her to look at her own stuff, where she'll take that is, now you're siding with him, and you're not like, you don't care about me and my pain. And the fact of the matter is I'm actually fighting like crazy for you. I could, let's put him aside, whatever. I want you to get better. I want you to be happier. And so when I notice that you're being manipulative or lying or twisting things, I'm not doing that to protect him. I want to dig down to why you're doing those things and what pain is driving that for you, so that then you can do your own work. You get oftentimes as therapists, we get triangulated into these scenarios where, you know, our goal, our job is to stay out of the drama. Yet, even if we stay out of the drama, we can still get thrown in to the drama by the other person. So, for example, if they're playing the victim, we might not be persecuting them. We might not be caretaking for them, but they're still going to act as if we are. And the people who want to move forward will take that feedback and listen and take responsibility for their own healing. And it's beautiful when it happens. I have worked with so many, I'm getting the goosebumps a little bit right now. People who are like, I'm in awe of them. I don't think I could do some of the things that I've seen people do in terms of the pain that they've felt, the forgiveness that they've extended, the processes of grief that they've gone through, how they've sat through hard, difficult things, staying in a marriage, walking through a difficult divorce, but doing what needs to be done in order to move forward. Healing is real. Healing is an option for anybody. Usually you're stuck because you don't want to face the reality of something and deal with that pain. And if you can actually look at that pain, you can walk through it a little bit, you'll probably get some chaos and pain, and it'll be hard, but then relief will come. And you'll be able to look back and you'll be able to see why. Why did you have to go through this thing? But you won't get that answer why if you're standing on the other side of it, looking at it saying, I refuse to do that. I can't do that. In fact, I'm going to spend my whole life playing the victim. There's complete platforms out there, huge platforms that feed off of keeping people stuck in a victim stance. They make money. They validate that anger and they validate that sadness. And that's good. That's valid. It's good to validate those things. But if they just keep you stuck right there, is that healing? I don't think so. And those platforms are designed because they know that they can keep people stuck right there. Because they know that people don't want to take responsibility for their own healing. You guys have heard me say this before, but I love that word responsibility. Response ability, your ability to respond to something. So do you not want to take responsibility? Would you rather sit back and just hope and wait for someone else to fix this for you? For someone else to change and someone else to make it right? In the meantime, they're out eating grass. Okay. I have a couple more, but I think I'll save those for later. I'm just wondering feedback. I've been pretty direct. I've been pretty blunt today, and I'm passionate about this stuff. And I hope you can feel my heart. I really do want people to get unstuck. And I used to run a women's group, betrayed partners group, and they understood this stuff. And I loved it because we'd get a new woman in the group and they would validate her pain. They would hold that space for her. They knew that what she was feeling because they'd been there. And then they would encourage her to start taking those steps forward, and they would give her support. They would help her strengthen her boundaries, her healthy boundaries. They'd support her in her own self-care, in her own tools that she's learning. And sometimes the new member would end up divorced. Sometimes they would end up staying married. But at the end of them doing their work, they were encouraging other women to step into their own power. They were empowering them to get better. And the women who would look back at their process would say, this sucked. Getting betrayed is the worst. And I'm grateful for it. And I know somebody who just got betrayed, to hear that is like, ugh, I hate hearing that. But if you walk through this healing process, you can have that too. All right, you guys, would love your feedback. So you can reach out to us at realtalkrecovery.com. If you want to be a guest, if you want to refute any things that I have to say or give a bit more context, if this has triggered something inside of you, I'm always open to discussion, and I'm open to learning from other people's perspectives. So if you'd want to come on the show, talk about some of these principles, I would be happy to have you. I hope you all have a wonderful day.